My partner's done a little bit of recovery work. Should I just be okay now?
Welcome to the Therapy Brothers podcast.
I'm Brannon.
I'm Tyler.
We're brothers,
We're therapists.
and we know recovery.
Bring your stories, your questions, your successes with real recovery.
Hey, Tyler, you ready to have some hard conversations?
Let's do it.
Let the Therapy Brothers podcast begin.
And it's good to be with you this morning.
Yeah, Tyler. It's good
Nice
to be
see
with
your
you
face.
too.
I was.
Yeah.
I want to know. I don't know why this popped into my head this week, but I want to know if you remember this memory. We used to mow lawns together, and we would have. I think we had our cousin Steven with us, and we drove this old beat up.
We did call him Milky Dilky because he smelled like rotten milk. But
his nickname was Milky Dilky. We called him Dilk. But I remember one day we had this. We thought we were we were running our own business. We had like all these lawn accounts that we were doing, but we were driving like a 1984 like 15 passenger van that had rust spots all over it, and then we had a trailer that we'd painted in the like image of an American flag. And we were driving down the road one day. We stopped at a stoplight, and this guy rode up next to us at the stoplight on this like old beat up like bike. And he was just kind of like, and we looked over at him like, whoa. And we started laughing at him like, hey, like we'd arrived, We were driving this 1984 like van, and then you turn around like next to us, and there's like somebody else driving by with like this massive brand new rig, like awesome trailer. Like it's like, man, everything is all so relative, isn't it? And I remember in the back seat just having Dilk just like laughing.
We had no right to laugh at anyone else. That's for sure.
Never. How is it that we as human beings somehow find ourselves in that like comparison space no matter what we do?
Seriously. But you know what's crazy is that trailer. That put us through college. That trailer 2 weeks ago, I was hauling something in it, and its tire blew out right on the side of I-15, and I just put 2 brand new tires on it, so it's good to go for like another 30 years.
Hey,
so
that's going to be your kid's mow crew trailer now.
I guess so.
That thing's never ending. It doesn't die.
Yeah. So, all right, Tyler. Let's introduce our guests. So, Jessie, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's kind of surreal being on here after listening to so many of your episodes.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you came on and had the courage to come be a caller. So if you could just give us a little bit of background and tell us what's happening,
okay,
and we'll go from there.
Okay, great. So my husband and I have been married about 10 years. I guess maybe red flag number one would have been even before we were engaged, I found some messages on his phone between him and a woman. It didn't look like they were meeting or anything, but just very flirtatious chatting. And I called him out on that. And I thought maybe that was just kind of a one-off thing. He had gotten out of a really bad relationship. And then after we did get married, and then after a year, maybe not even less, it was less than a year after being married, he kind of introduced the idea of how fun it would be for us to chat and talk with other couples and things like that on, and it seemed, I don't know, kind of fun and exciting, I guess, a little bit, but when it progressed from there and we met with some people, I really felt like, and I told him this from day one, it feels like you're kind of giving me away and that I'm not precious and special to you. And, but we kind of kept going with that, and it ebbed and flowed out of our life, little kind of dabblings in that, I guess. And then at one point when we had been married close to 2 years, I received a Facebook message from someone that said that they had been intimate with my husband. And there was enough information that I knew it was true. And I asked him right then about it, and it took him, I mean, gosh, well into the evening, I mean, hours and hours and hours before he did admit it. And, you know, of course, the promises that this was a one-off, this one-time thing. And I I don't know, part of me doesn't think that that's true. That there was just this one person that randomly, what happened was they ran into me and just kind of made small talk, and then later reached out realizing that I was the wife. So, but we moved forward, and we were right in the middle of buying a house, and we had 4 elementary school age kids, and it just seemed like we have to keep going. And so we did, and actually some of the kind of, you know, dabbling and chatting with other couples and things continued. And he wasn't really regularly working either. And I know I'm kind of going off onto different tangents here, but
You're okay.
but I reached a breaking point, and I think in my head I told myself, you know, I needed him to change a lot financially, but also change. You know, I'd listened to a lot of your podcasts talking about arousal templates and stuff like that, and to me, it felt like this other people, whether it was just pillow talk, you know, of other people when it was just us, or actually meeting with other people, that was something permanently ingrained in him. And I think I reached this point of surrender where I was like, so this isn't going to work. I'm asking him to change everything. I'm asking him to change everything sexually. I'm asking him to make a bunch of changes financially. I I wrote a long letter to him and told him everything that wasn't working for me, which is very outside my comfort zone. I'm very much a sweep it under the rug, and then when the rug gets too bulky, just cut and run, and don't ever talk about it. Just run away. And he's the type that doesn't talk about it either, but I guess stays and just doesn't talk about it. So when I wrote him this long letter, which was almost exactly a year ago, it was last March. I think in some ways I thought, that's it. I'm going to lay out everything I need. He's never going to be able to meet the needs and demands I have in there. And this is the beginning of unraveling our marriage. And then he did change. He got a very consistent job, which has made him a lot happier. He did enroll. It was like an out of state or program, but it was for sex addiction. And he started talking to a counselor on there. I feel like really regularly. I don't know if it was once or twice a week. Maybe it was just once a week. And he was really engaged in that. And I think then when he got the job a few months after that, he just quit going to the sessions and just needed a break from that, which I kind of understood, new job, but that was back in maybe August or September. And it was like, kind of like, that's it. I'm healed. I'm good. And I'm just sitting here and feeling shattered still, just like everything's not okay. And it's just like, oh, okay, I don't know, got rid of that and I'm good now. I'm just asking, in some ways I'm like, do I have to write another letter and set a whole new ultimatum list or something like that, but I don't know. I feel guilty that I'm not okay. And I feel just that I should be more appreciative or something. And he doesn't say those things to me, but it's just like, we're just supposed to go on like nothing ever happened. So I think I'm just struggling with that.
You don't talk about any of this with one another?
We did have a few marriage counseling sessions, and I told her the analogy I used in front of him, and I think I've said it to him again, is I feel like you took it's like a white sheet of paper and you set these like simmering coals, like briquettes all over it, and they were burning and singeing everything, and then you just took them off the paper and it's like, here you go, let's go on with life. And I have this burned up, dirty paper, it's just, and so I guess that's the best way I put it to him. But, I mean, we don't fight. He's a good person that I enjoy being around, but I think I had already checked out. And so it's hard to come back.
So I'm wondering about, there's two sides to this that I'm wondering about. For you, Jessie, it's your own healing and your own recovery that has not as much to do with him. And then the second side of it is his recovery. Like, is this real recovery or not? So I'd like to kind of flush out with you and just kind of look at the evidence of, is this real recovery from him?
Right.
And then talk to you about, when you're saying like, well, I feel a little guilty, like I should be getting over this. And I'm kind of worried that you're talking your intuition and your gut out of things. And just make sure that that you don't do that, and that you are sure about what moving forward in your recovery actually looks like. So Tyler, what do you think? I mean, should we kind of assess him and kind of where he's at first?
I think we could do a little bit of both there. I'm wondering too, with the personal recovery, I guess I'm just wondering, I'm not totally clear on how you said this. In your relationship, there have been multiple times where you said you were chatting with other couples. Are you talking about like actually having sexual, intimate conversations,
there was a lot,
interactions?
There was definitely some of that. Now that's been, I mean, even a little before the letter, it's been completely out of our lives. And I've like tried to throw up red flags for the years that we were together. Like, this is not good. This is going to lead to someone falling in love or someone getting pregnant or somebody, it's just not, it's not healthy, and it's not an okay thing in our lives, but it would just creep back in.
Okay. So that was my question. If so I did understand it right. The question was, and this goes along with one of those sides Brannon's talking about, was even early on in the marriage, before any of this stuff started to really build and break loose, it sounds like you were having some internal or maybe some external pressure to sort of sacrifice some of your own values.
Yes.
And you never quite felt right about what was going on, but never really felt like you could set the boundaries or speak whatever was true for you at that time.
I think so. And I think I also felt like, is this a way to allow him to have what he wants without it being cheating or something? I don't know, something like that. But it's just not okay anymore at all. I don't know if it ever was, but
well, were you participating in that out of what you just kind of said, out of fear and like going along because that's what he wanted, versus like you wanting that too and wanting to be a part of it?
I mean, there was never like a threat or anything like that. It was just more, oh, I'll try anything once, kind of, I guess. And then it was like, it just never felt justifiable to me. Not that I was sitting there and crying that I didn't want to do it or anything, but it was just, it was almost like, and it still feels this way a lot of times, the only way for him to be fully enjoying sex and everything is to talk like that during sex and to pine for that or something. And I'm not okay even with it just being pillow talk. Like, it's so contaminated that it just feels like it's off the table for me. So.
But you haven't had those boundaries in the past where you've gone along with it, you've tried to appease, you've tried to like figure out how to have a relationship where he doesn't have to cheat so you can go along with this. And you're realizing, oh, going about it that way isn't working for me and can't continue in the future. That's what I'm hearing.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So I'm just wondering, when we talk about recovery, like you say
you're talking about assessing from the outside what recovery looks like now first, and then we'll get into like maybe her recovery after this. Is that where you're going, Brannon?
Yeah. Well, what I'm wondering is, okay, things have gotten better. He got a job. He went to a few groups. What is recovery, Jessie? Like, from what are you feeling? What are you looking for from your partner? Like, what is that? What is it right now, and what do you know it to be?
I think that one thing I even had in that letter back in March was it has to be more than just stopping the action to me, because I guess I feel like I think, not talking or doing anything with anyone else, but there's more to it than that, because when life is good and easy and we're kind of cruising along, it's easy to not use. I mean, he would say it was a vice. It was like a coping mechanism for him of like feeling better about himself, feeling wanted and needed and attractive and all those things. And when life is good, it's easy to not need a vice. But I guess I feel like in my letter, and what I needed from him was just more conversation. And I told him, I feel like I'm the one that's always reading and listening to podcasts and doing development work and journaling and all that. And I have to see that you're doing more than just quitting, right? Like that's maybe like where I'm talking about the burning embers on the paper. It's like, okay, so you remove the embers and it's like, okay, now let's just move on with life. And I just don't feel like, and I don't feel like it's a long-term success, right? Like he's going to have glitches in his life and things that are not going to feel good and perfect. And then I don't know that he has another coping mechanism or another that he's really, I think that he's not doing those things in big part so he doesn't lose me. And there has to be more to it than that. Like, I don't know. Like you guys, I think have talked about like white knuckling it. And I don't know if we're doing anything better than just white knuckling it. I'm not going to get on that app. I'm not going to chat with somebody. I'm not going to meet up with somebody. It's doesn't feel like there's much more than that. Just quitting, Yep. Does that answer it?
Yeah, it does answer it. I'm wondering if there have been any times in your relationship, even maybe right at the beginning, where you felt some differences that you're not feeling now, or have you never actually felt the differences at all?
What do you mean? What kind of differences?
Like, has it ever felt like there's a proactive approach that he's taking towards being the best person he can be, whether that's, getting sober, or whether that's changing these behaviors, or whether that's leaning into like developing a stronger relationship with you, whether that's, even going and getting a job when he sounds like he hadn't had a job in a really long time. Has there ever been efforts that you've seen him doing without feeling like you were compelling him to do those things, where a part of your body said, oh, okay, I see him working?
Not really. I feel like I have to drive it. And that's, so we were actually working together, and it was like every task and prior, before he got this job. And it was like everything had to be speared along by me. And I think that I just got tired. And you guys, I think it was you guys, I don't know, I listened to a lot of stuff, but it talked about like sitting on the shore, right? Like just give them the information and sit on the shore. And that's what I finally did for the first time in my life, was just like, I'm just going to sit my butt right here and not guide you and help you and teach you and make suggestions. Not like I don't want to help you. I mean, if he said, help me, I don't know what to do, of course I would, but I don't want to drag him through recovery or drag him to being a bigger person. And I don't feel that. I don't feel that. I don't know if he's incapable or he just, I don't know. I don't know what it is. But
So, a couple of things, and I've just been trying to hold back and have you talk this out. So when we look at recovery, I think a lot of times people miss it. And so in mine and Tyler's work, they come in and they say, well, he's sober, or the person struggling would say, I'm sober, I'm doing really well, and then they're creating all kinds of mess around them still, even though they're white knuckling to sobriety. And we talk about that all the time, right?
yeah.
But I want to just kind of give you an analogy. So as you can tell, I'm a little under the weather, and I have been for a month now.
Okay.
And so I've been drinking NyQuil. Like I've been like the phenylephrine is just pumping through my veins right now.
Do we need to get you some help, Brannon?
I was gonna say, is this call flipping?
No, I'm not drinking it that much, and I'm drinking it for a reason.
Okay.
And
everybody uses for a reason, Brannon.
I was gonna say, yeah, there's excuses.
This is not denial. Okay. Yeah, okay, I've been taking Tylenol. I'll say that.
So that's denial, right?
Here's my point. When I take that medicine, I feel better. And it feels good and it's great. And then I go to bed and I wake up the next morning and I'm all gunked up and it's still there. The issue's still there.
Right.
This has been going for a month. And so yesterday, finally went to the doctor and the doctor put me on an antibiotic. It's hopefully going to clear up my sinus infection. Now, what's the difference between an antibiotic and the NyQuil?
That it's going to get to the problem, that it's going to like not just mask symptoms, I guess. So
exactly. So it'll get at the root of things and flush out that bad bacteria and get rid of it like once and for all. It's actually treating the actual source, the actual issue. And we see this all the time where people, and usually it's a codependent recovery that we see this, where it's like, well, I'm not that into recovery or changing or figuring out my heart or understanding my trauma or doing this deep healing work, but I am into not getting divorced and like I don't want to lose my spouse. And so I'm gonna like do enough in order to appease and then not actually truly do the work. And so it leaves people like you, Jessie, where you're like, I don't know what to do because I see change, but I don't feel change.
Yeah, I would say that's exactly true. And I feel like in my deepest like prayers and thoughts and conversations with God, I hate to even say this, just throw this out in the universe, but I feel like God is telling me it's going to happen again. You know, it's just,
that's your gut. That's your gut, Jessie.
Yeah. It's going to happen again. And then I'm like, I don't know. Do I stay? It's hard because he would say, I'm not doing anything. Like I'm promise. Here's my phone. I'm not doing anything, you know, but
that's kind of the point. You're not doing anything.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You're just not doing the thing that was so terrible, but yeah.
Right.
I think that's what I was asking about with like the feeling of proactive change. If you felt it, you'll know you felt it and you'll know the difference between what you're currently feeling and that.
I don't think there's proactive change.
Yeah. Well, and I think maybe that's what Brannon's saying. That's your gut that's coming through then, and rather than fear, because if it's fear, it's like anyone who's been betrayed is probably going to naturally have some of that fear and like it's going to happen again. It's going to happen again. It's happening again. But then there's a different kind of settling kind of feeling that's like, man, there's not a lot here that warrants it not happening again.
Yeah.
Right. It's like, okay, the focus has become on the sobriety. I don't mess up in these ways anymore. Hurry and check my phone, all of this stuff. Okay, good. Like maybe that's a first step in part of the process. But the people who do the best in recovery are the ones who have, you know, they have a change of heart. And the change of heart becomes this thing of, even if I'm not perfect, I'm committed to figuring this out rather than I'm going to be perfect and never mess up again.
Right.
It's more of like, yeah, I got some issues here and I need to look at the roots. Like, what is it that makes me, like, if we're talking to your husband, what is it that makes me want to be in a relationship always looking outward?
Yeah.
You know, instead of being fully committed in my relationship with my partner. I need to understand that about myself. I need to figure that out because there's probably some learning to do there for myself. I need to dive into that. Now with what you're saying about his job, if he hasn't had a job in a long time and he does have one now, that actually might be a really vital part of a good recovery for a man like that.
Yeah. And I mean, he would say that too, that like his lack of like self-worth and, you know, all of that they were too tied together, the things, right? Like not being the provider and not being the, you know, all those things, like a shame and like a insignificance kind of. And, so I think they are tied to each other, but even if it was like, okay, and he's not going to do it again. I still feel just like, and I'm supposed to be okay. And I'm not okay, you know?
Yeah.
So,
Like when we talk about the change of heart, what ultimately we're talking about is somebody that goes from destroying safety and trust in a relationship to being a strong figure in the relationship that can support the building of trust and safety in the relationship. And they do that through being able to show up rigorously honest, um, hold space and be very empathetic, um, be self-determined in their own recovery, and be consistent in that. And um, and they don't take things too personally.
mhm.
And so yeah, I'm describing someone who's like perfect, like, but but they move in that they do the work, the underneath work, and that stuff naturally starts to come forth as a result of them finding peace within their soul. And when that stuff naturally comes forth, then this whole like sobriety thing, whatever, sobriety happens. That's like secondary to this.
Mhm.
Um, Sobriety is not the thing that actually builds that safety and that trust in the relationship. And then the partner's like, oh, and sometimes the partner really struggles when they get in recovery because they still need to do their own work and they still don't want to attach, and they know their partner's safe and getting healthy, and that's scary now. Um but and so it kind of sheds light on the partner and where they're at and what work they need to do when they're doing their own work. What I'm describing, Jesse, sounds very different than what I'm hearing from you.
Yeah.
um
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I do want that. I do want that strength from a partner and like this, like a whole person over there, and not just somebody, I'm tired. I mean, that was part of it when we were working together was I don't want to dictate your day and tell you what to do. I just want you to have
no.
I want you to have your own drive and your own seeking and what works for you and everything. Because I mean, the one of the worst things I can say is, "Oh, I was listening to this podcast today, or read this book today." I mean, it's like, "Oh Lord, here she goes again," you know. So
Mm-hmm. Uh-huh.
it's not helpful. But then I guess my question becomes, okay, so I hear what you're saying, and I agree 100%, and I do I am a big like I'll work and do the work, but I'm like if he's not gonna show up differently and be stronger, then I'm like, I guess I'm good. I'm not gonna do anything, So I don't know how to like help because I don't want to be his mommy. I don't want to tell him exactly everything to do, but I'm not trying to keep secrets from him either. It's just I don't know what to do to make him spur himself along.
Yeah, well, and I don't know that that's actually your job.
Okay.
Um, I mean, obviously you want to try to help things go right and you want to invite things to go right, but this is kind of where the transition goes from going, okay, let's talk about whether or not he's in recovery or not, over into your side of things and saying, okay, what does your ongoing process of growth and recovery look like for you? Because the truth is that whatever that is for you is likely going to be your best invitation to him anyway,
Okay.
to come along with wherever you're headed with your own life, the growth that you're doing for yourself.
I think I just don't know like how do I and I feel like I mean I could definitely grow more for sure, but I feel like I used to be a really religious person in high school, and then I kind of was, and I would go to church, but now I feel like I've really this past year grown so much because I've had to, because I've just had to surrender this. And I know he sees that, just the time and that kind of, I don't know, dedication that I'm doing. And he even said that he wrote a letter back to me after I wrote a letter, and he wrote a letter back to me and said, I see that you're always growing and trying to develop yourself. And I want that too, but nothing happened. So I guess my question for you would be, okay, so if I continue in my growth and my values and my beliefs and everything, then do we just keep walking through this marriage if he's not changing? I mean,
And that, Jesse, is a question for you. Is the best thing you can do to motivate him and to invite him up is for you to love yourself and be as healthy as you possibly can be. But there's a massive risk with that.
Yeah.
Is when I shouldn't say when, if he chooses to not step up and step forth into real recovery, and if you're healthy, then that could lead to the demise of your relationship. And if he doesn't want to do the work, then in a way he's inviting you to hang out kind of at the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
To and you can be like, okay, like I won't do anything and he doesn't have to do anything, and we can kind of have the marriage that we've had. And that's a choice that you have to make, and it seems like you don't really want to do that anymore, but
Yeah.
you're worried that if you don't, that your relationship won't make it.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I don't want to like be less just to stay, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Right.
Like
That's the work though. It's like a systematic process that, I mean, listen to what you've already described to us so far. Like you have already taken a step that's extremely important for your own personal direction, and it's now putting pressure on the relationship to either move to the new places you're growing or not, by going to him and saying, hey, this is where it doesn't work for me anymore. I'm not into doing the swinging thing or the sharing of partners anymore. Like I'm out on that.
Right.
Now he gets a chance to choose whether or not he's going to agree with that or come along with that. And he needs to be the one who chooses that, because if he doesn't, you will never feel safe in the relationship anyway. And if he chooses not to do those things, then you get your answers, and it will facilitate a difference, a changing of the paths. Right now,
Right.
as you grow into that yourself, you're okay, I'm living in my values now. And then I'm picking up more of my values, and I'm strengthening more of my values, and I'm getting more and more confident in like knowing who I am and what I want in life. That actually buys time for him to
Okay.
continue to make some choices to either come along or not. But eventually, if he doesn't make those choices, you will be in a strong enough place where you get to go, dang it, this isn't what I wanted. But my values are now moving me in this direction, and it doesn't look like he's going to come with me.
Okay. Okay.
Right.
Yeah. It's just, yeah, it's one of those hard, like, in some ways, if he was still, I guess, acting out and still meeting up with people, it would be easy to walk away, right? Like it would be like, okay, well, you did the thing, so I'm out. But he's not doing those things, but he's just not growing and not really doing, like you were talking about with the antibiotics. He's not doing that root
the core
work.
work.
Right. He's not. And so I just feel like it's just a matter of time before he slips, because you haven't healed the whatever where it's all growing from. So
But Jesse, I it feels like that you've been very gaslit. Um and who's really good at gaslighting people?
yeah.
Nice guys. Nice guys, like good guys.
Mhm.
And it feels like you've been really gaslit to a point where, like, as I talk to you, I feel and hear a woman who has strong intuition,
Yeah.
um, who knows that you feel things, and you can differentiate between intuition and fear. And but
Mhm.
I'll also hear a woman who has strong intuition, who's willing to sacrifice that over, and be manipulated by somebody, right? And you're here talking to us, and I hear you saying, "I don't want to do that. Like I'm done doing that."
Yeah.
Um, a lot of this comes back to you actually stepping up into that for you, actually listening, actually doing what that intuition is telling you, and not doing what you've done in the past. And a protective part has been there to say, give that up, protect the relationship, give that up and protect the relationship, go along with that and protect the relationship. To say, nope, I'm not going to do that. Because I'm going to fight for a healthy relationship. And that's built on honesty. And I'm going to show up honest in the relationship. And either he can love me as I am, or he's going to have to make another decision. Right.
Right.
So as I'm saying that, Jesse, how does that feel?
I mean, I feel like what you're saying is true. I mean, it's hard, right? Because when I think of gaslighting somebody, I'm thinking of like this big, terrible narcissist person that's, like trying to, I don't know, but and he really is a nice person with this flaw of some of this. But when you're saying to show up honestly, it's overwhelming because it's just different than my personality of just, wanting, like, I'll keep the peace. I'll just, it's okay. I'll, just, just make sure everything's okay and just glaze over it all. And to me, honesty sounds much more confrontational than that. um, but I
Mhm.
hear what you're saying, and I'm writing notes as you're talking, that I'll have to go back to, but it's just, yeah, I do feel very firm in hearing that intuition within me and trying to say, I'm sorry, I haven't listened to it,
Mhm.
kind of within myself. And
That strong, powerful, feminine voice inside of you needs to be listened to more than like right now, more
mm,
than his voice saying, well, we should just do that, or like, yeah, this is recovery or whatever. Like, to be able to say, no, I actually feel this, I know this deep within me, that needs to be listened to.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, like one of my close girlfriends that knows a lot about every detail of all this over the years and everything, and she's like, you just need to like stand up and scream, like this is not for me. I don't want to. What are you doing? What is wrong with you? To him, But
Yeah.
yeah, so um, yeah, I think you're right. I've tried to fix him so many times by me going to therapy and then trying to fix him during therapy, and that's not the way therapy works. Um,
Uh-uh. Uh-uh.
yeah, it doesn't work. So I think you're right. Maybe I haven't talked to my therapist in several months, but maybe I just need to concentrate more on that instead of, well, I don't know, he doesn't have time for marriage counseling, so we're not going to go to marriage counseling. Maybe I just need to do me kind of
Yeah, huh? Right
and
now, yeah.
What will likely happen is the more you do you and the more you step into your values, the more he'll get an opportunity to see how important engaging in marriage counseling is going to be for him if he wants to keep the relationship.
yeah,
And then he'll get to make some choices, and he will or he won't. I'm just sitting here having this thought, and I hear you trying to get away from this, and I think it's good, is because there's so many couples that we work with that I love what you said. I try to fix me enough so that I can go fix him,
right.
right? Like, oh man, that is such a tiring way to live.
Yeah,
And there's never any trust in that. And the focus for so many people listening right now, the focus has to get away from, it's funny because your gut's saying, I think it's going to happen again. But
yeah,
it happening again is still not even the bigger issue. The reason why it's going to happen again is the bigger issue. And that's the part that's also not going to ever allow you to have the relationship you want unless it gets addressed. So you could have a sober husband for the next 30 years and you will still have the same problems in your
mhm,
relationship, whether he's sober or not.
yeah,
It happening again is just the symptom that's indicating that the work itself has not yet been done.
right.
And so the work needs to be being engaged in of, yeah, I need to figure myself out and I need to set an intention for who I want to be as a partner, as a husband, as a man. That will create safety. That will create change. That will create intimacy. That will create vulnerability. That will also eventually create sobriety. But if sobriety is the piece that's focused on, all the rest of it that's important towards the development of the relationship gets swept under the rug too.
Yeah. And I'm hearing what you're saying and I'm thinking, is he capable of that? Is he capable of stepping up into that role? I don't know. I've never seen it.
I know he's capable of it. It's a matter of whether or not he's going to make choices towards it with a broken heart.
Hmm.
And if
Hmm.
he doesn't, that's okay. Like he'll make his own choices, but then that gives you a chance to then make your own choices as you grow into your own strength.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So
My oh, go ahead, Jesse.
I was just gonna say, so what I'm hearing kind of is just for now, your advice to me would be just to keep getting more firm and solid in my values and my growth and my speaking up for those
Your
values.
truths.
Okay.
Yep.
And that will hopefully lead the rest of the path, whichever direction that's going to go.
But I can hear it in your voice and you said it. That's scary for you because that's not what you typically do.
Right. No, that's not at all what I do.
That's systematic acts of continuous courage, one after another, as you uncover your identity, yourself, your values, and then you're going back to him and saying, "This is me."
Right.
And then he's either going, "Oh, I don't think I can come along," or he's going, "Okay, like I like this. I better make some changes. I don't want to lose this."
Right.
Jesse, to do that, you're going to need recovery capital. So you're going to need a support system, a good therapist. You're going to need a lot of consciousness about the ways you defend and protect and give up your truths, and some coping skills, some tools. And so, like, for us to have this conversation, say, "Hey, go trust your gut and your intuition, and just go be strong." You probably could go do it once or twice, today,
Right.
and just boom. And then all the other fears and all the other stuff is going to come back. But when you can rely on that recovery capital, on those dailies, on that support system and all that stuff, then you can consistently do it over time and actually shift the way you're showing up long term. So
Okay. Yeah.
it's a system, it's a process, and it's a system that needs to be installed for you to learn how to show up in your truth consistently.
Okay. So it's
Dude,
kind of, yeah, like the original question maybe isn't even the question of can he recover in those months? Because maybe in just a few months and then jump out of it, because maybe it's the truth is that I already know the answer. I just don't like the answer.
yeah, yep.
Yeah.
That's really honest.
Well, yeah, and the answer is that you want to be with somebody who's engaged in a process, not a quick fix.
Right.
That's
It's
the joy
possible.
of a marriage.
Right. It's possible
Right.
to be sober, but not completely have healed decades of behavior on his part. So yeah.
Yep. I'm into lately Newton's first law. Hang in here with me, guys, for just a
Okay.
second. An object in motion stays in motion unless what?
And
You guys
something
know?
acts on it, right?
Yeah, acted upon by an outside force, right? Or an object that is not in motion stays not moving until acted upon by an outside force. And a lot of times what happens is somebody will get caught with an affair or whatever, and they'll think that's the outside force, and they'll start going through the motions of going to therapy and trying to do all the things but they are still in motion in the same direction. They're still moving in a shame-based place of manipulation.
Mhm.
And when we say acted upon by an outside force, like Tyler and I, when we talk about this deeper healing recovery stuff, this isn't ambiguous to us. This isn't like that thing that we talk about. Like this is the work that Tyler and I do. Like the retreats we do, the ART, the EMDR, even the plant medicine, the deeper healing heart work is absolutely available. The group work that we do and put together, it's available for people who want to take it when they're ready. And so there is things that he can step into. There's opportunity. And same goes for you, Jesse. Like you can put yourself in the way of that outside force that's going to knock you and change you and shift you into creating something different in your life. But you got to be willing to kind of put yourself in the way of that. If you're dodging it and you're just trying not to be acted upon and it's too vulnerable and too scary, nothing's going to change.
Yeah.
So seems like you're kind of ripe and ready. And I haven't talked to him today. I haven't got a feel for his heart. I've got it through your perspective.
Right.
So from your perspective of him, I don't know if he's that willing or wanting to do that. But it seems like you are. So
Yeah. I feel, I mean, I'm definitely a strong, independent woman. So there's not a fear of like, I don't know how to live without a partner or something like that. But it's just that I know he is a good person at his heart. And And everybody that knows him personally thinks that he is perfect. Honestly, that would probably be the word that most people use, unless they've talked to me too much. So he has it in him, I think, to be a great dad and a great husband. But I think he would almost say, I don't need to do all that stuff. I don't have time to do all that stuff. I think that would maybe be the words he would say. So, but then he's going to lose a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the way it'll go. And
There's a cost.
There'll be two honest people in that scenario, which is the best possible scenario, regardless of how it turns out.
Yeah. And maybe it kind of goes back to that, where you hear that saying, like, a marriage is hard, but divorce is harder, or, like, I don't know, eating right is hard, but having a heart attack's harder, that kind of thing. It's like, the recovery work is hard, but knowing you could have done the recovery work and not doing it is maybe harder. So,
yeah. Yep. Amen. We're just about out of time. Jessie, any last thoughts or feelings on your heart today?
No, I mean, I really appreciate what you guys have said. And I think that I need to just look back over some of the things I wrote down that you said, and relying on that intuition. And I think maybe continuing my own growth instead of just saying, well, he's not going to continue growth, so why do I need to continue growing? But maybe there's a reason for it. Instead of, what I was thinking was, I'm growing to improve our marriage and he's not going to do it, so why do it? No, maybe it's more just solidifying in myself more in values and things like that.
Your growing will invite a new marriage, or it will change your current marriage scenario for sure.
Okay.
I think you're actually on the right track. I like what Brannon said, and I'd really encourage you, like, even just to have a space like what you just did with Brannon and I today. You need team like that, where you can kind of on a regular basis bounce your own heart, your own values back off of people and go, I don't want to have this confrontation today. Okay. Like, you still have a team, you still got some structure, you still got some support. So, thank you for coming on our show today, Jessie.
Hey, Tyler, can I say one thing? Don't you think Radiant Dawn would be good for her?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, you should definitely take a look at that.
Okay. Right now,
she's prime for it, just because you can kind of hear it. Like, you're in the game for the right reasons. I can hear it for sure, Jessie. Yeah.
Great. So, I will look into that. And thank you both so much for your time and all the work you guys do with your podcast. I know you're changing lives every day.
Yeah, so thank you, Jessie.
Thanks, Jessie.
For those of you guys here listening, thank you for being here with us. And until next time, keep on keeping on.
See ya.